Hi everybody, welcome back to a new episode, and today we're talking to a current student abroad, Katie Jarvis, who is in Denmark, and let's get into it.
So my name is Katie. I use she, her pronouns. At U of R, I am a mechanical engineering major with a minor in mathematics, and I'm currently studying abroad in Denmark. I'm in a little town called Lyngby, which is about 40 minutes north of Copenhagen. Let's see. So I'm studying at DTU, which is Denmark Technical University. I think there's one other Copenhagen school, which is DIS Copenhagen, that U of R offers. But I'm going to be talking more about what I do as a student in Lyngby because it's like, a bit of a commute to go down to Copenhagen. It's more of a weekend thing. One of the things that's interesting here at this school is it's not set up like U of R, where we have lectures twice a week and then workshops sort of like in the evening or in the afternoon. Instead, it's like 4-hour class blocks that are once a week, where there's supposed to be around 2 hours of lecture and then 2 hours of practice where you can get help from TAs and stuff. So that's been, being able to focus and like stay on track for 4 hours straight is definitely a lot, especially if you've got 2 of those in one day. That's what I have on Tuesdays. So yeah, I've got fluids and heat transfer, which it's a bit of a day. But otherwise, my school has like a couple of clubs. So I'm in a Dungeons and Dragons club and a board games club. And then I also have some friends who are either in my building or in like just other exchange students who I'll sometimes like go out to events around Copenhagen with. So I think 2 weeks ago, there was a thing, like an annual thing called the Copenhagen Culture Night, where you pay like somewhere around $10-15 and you get admission to like all of the museums, the zoo, like there's theater, there's like music performances, and you just get all of that and you just get to choose where you go in that one night. So that was really special. I think if you're in Copenhagen, that's totally worth going to. But yeah, that's sort of mainly my day-to-day. And then back in my dorm, which is about a 10-minute bike ride from most of my classes. It has a built-in kitchen and a built-in bathroom. So that's been really nice, not having to be in that U of R like shared kitchen, shared bathroom sort of situation.
So if your classes are more, once a week type of situations, does that leave you more free time to travel on the weekends or the days that you do have off? Do you ever do that a lot?
Yeah, it's actually really nice. I have no classes on Mondays, and I've only got one class on Fridays. So like my sister lives in the Netherlands at the moment, so I'm planning to visit her sometime in early December, where I can basically do a 4-day weekend pretty much every week. And then I don't have classes Thursday either. So that's super nice. So yeah, it does leave a lot of room for travel, and it's surprisingly cheap to travel around Europe. The flights are like way more inexpensive than I'm used to in the US, but also there's like coach buses, which aren't the most stylish way to travel, but they're super cheap. You can get a coach from Copenhagen down to Hamburg, Germany, in I think 6 hours for like $25. So I'm really sort of working on a plan to do that with one of my friends. So it's definitely very easy to travel. We're like right across the, I forget the name of it, the water mass between Denmark and Sweden. I'm also like half an hour from the nearest Swedish city. Denmark's definitely a super great place to travel or like to use as a springboard to go to other places.
And have you given any thought to if you're going to travel alone or are you going to travel with friends? Is it like a bit difficult to make friends, or have you found that process to be easy?
In terms of traveling, I did just do a big trip to Italy with a sort of close-ish friend group, not people I'm like, talking to every day, but like of classmates from a class and friends from their home universities. And we put together like a week-long trip and visited like 3 different cities in Italy.
Where'd you go?
So I went to Rome, Florence. We flew out of Milan, and then we also stayed in a little town called Levanto that's in the like Cinque Terre region. I feel like it's a bit mixed. I did go with people I don't know very well, and that was sort of the advice like my family and people who had studied abroad before gave me. They said like, everyone's just trying to find people to travel with. You don't want to travel alone. You should try and like go with that group. And I would actually say maybe try, if you're going to travel with people you don't know very well, don't do it in a super big group, because there was a lot of disorganization and people didn't seem very comfortable about talking about what was like financially okay with them. Because there were some people who clearly came from more of a wealthier background and didn't mind going out for lunch and dinner every day. And then there were other people who were trying to avoid like spending too much and like going to grocery stores to eat. So there was a little bit of tension between that. But the actual like places we visited were fantastic and the food was wonderful. So it's a bit mixed.
That makes sense. So what would be your suggestion to someone, who's looking to travel around Europe? How would you suggest planning that out?
Yeah. I would say in terms of like trying to find a friend group that you mesh with, one thing that I'd really recommend is like trying to do clubs at your university. I will eventually connect this back to travel, but I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent.
Go ahead.
If you're going to a school that has a lot of people that are coming in from abroad and a lot of people who are only doing exchange for a semester or a year, there's a little bit of like a divide between the like native Danish students versus the like all of the exchange students. And you'll find that like in your classes, the Danish students will try to form groups with each other because then they can speak their home language, and they know that if they make friends, they're not going to be gone in like a couple of months. But one really good way to make friends that are from the country you're in is to do clubs if your university offers them. They're always like open to exchange students, I'm pretty sure. And then you'll have like a common interest. So instead of just being like some random like person from another country that like you might not talk to a lot if you're a home student, it's like, oh, this person shares my interest. We have something in common. And like, that's how I have most of my Danish friends, through like the clubs I'm in. And then also if there's other exchange students in the club, that'll be super great because they probably would also want to travel a lot, and you can sort of make groups with people that you're already seeing once a week. You already get to know them, and then you can sort of like figure out quicker whether they're going to be someone you want to travel with.
That's good advice. That's kind of what I experienced also in my study abroad. Who you travel with really affects you, and taking that into consideration. So
yeah.
Is Italy the place that, was that your big trip? Have you gone to other places in like Denmark? Or I know you mentioned Copenhagen, but how would you, because in my study abroad, I remember people were always really regretful that they went a lot abroad to a lot of places in Europe, but they never really traveled in their study abroad country as much. Have you had any experiences with that? Have you been to a lot of places in Denmark?
I've definitely gone to places that are within like day trip length, like where I can sort of either bike there or get a bus or a train. So I've been to a bunch of the museums in Copenhagen. There's a park that's really near where I am. It's like a national park that's got like deer that just will walk right up to the guests, and sort of like I took my like photo camera there, and I have like a ton of photos of just little baby deer all around me and stuff. And there's like a beach, there's a bunch of amusement parks. So I've definitely been trying to see everything I can in the Copenhagen area. And then the next big break I have is sort of the first week or two of December is like the reading period here. And that's when I'm planning to do a trip out across a couple of the different Danish cities, because Christmas is super big here. All the different cities will have their own decorations and Christmas markets, and it'll all be very festive and cozy. So even though I'm not like religious Christian, like I celebrate Christmas with my family in a way. So I'm really excited for that. And that's sort of planned, but not yet because I'm going to have to like book hotels or hostels and stuff.
That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And
yeah,
have you, because I know there are a lot of highs and lows of studying abroad. So far, what are your favorite moments and your least favorite moments of your study abroad?
Mm. There's just so many that I can think of. I'm trying to like compress it down. I just went to an amusement park called Tivoli last weekend that will decorate based on the season, and it's very big at Halloween time. And I like sort of got a pass so I could ride all the rides. And there were some that did like loop-de-loops and stuff, and I went with a big friend group, and it was just like so fun. There was one that like it was like the spring at Seabreeze, if you've been. But it went up like 12 stories in the air or something. You could see like pretty much the entire city, and then it just dropped. And that was like just being able to see everything all lit up at night was super crazy and fun. So that's up there.
So it was at night?
It was at night, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because with daylight savings just ended last weekend. And it's been getting dark very early since Denmark's so far north and everything.
That makes sense.
So, yeah, if you're going to a Scandinavian country, don't forget to bring some vitamin D with you. Take that every day. You're not going to be getting it from the sun. In terms of least favorite, based on all the like stores and decorations and everything, I thought Halloween was going to be big here. It seemed like when I talked to people that Halloween was getting bigger and bigger in like this part of Europe. But like their actual Halloween night and even just Halloween weekend, there was really nothing like special about it. So that made me just feel a little homesick. I sort of wished I was home with all my friends, dressing up, going out, like watching movies together. So you don't realize that you're going to have like, you're going to miss out on stuff because the world's getting so Americanized nowadays. But it's like just the little things that make you miss home, sort of like that.
And speaking of those little things, are there any really cultural differences between either Denmark, America, Europe, and America that really you were like, I did not know that this was going to affect my daily life this much?
For Scandinavia, or at least Copenhagen, people are very friendly and very like, there's very strong like societal expectations of what to do. So those are sometimes good and sometimes bad. So like if you get on the wrong bus or you're speaking too loudly in a quiet train car, I've heard these stories from other people that like the Danes will sort of come up to you and be like, hey, you can't do that in here. Like, that's not okay. Or if you're like maybe walking in the bike path or just little things that like, they're not enforced by law. They're sort of enforced by social standards. Those are very strong, but it also means that like theft, pickpocketing, like just forgetting something somewhere are really nothing you have to be worried about. So actually last night I was at an IKEA with my friend and I left my bike helmet just like sitting on the like checkout register thing and I completely forgot about it. And it's like a nice bike helmet. It has like a little light in the back. So I was getting really nervous. I tried to like call the store and I couldn't find a phone number. So I was like stressing all last night about it. And then this morning I show up again and they're like, oh yeah, like one of the other customers saw this. They immediately said like, oh, do you know whose this is? Can you like set it aside? And it was just like very sweet. I've also heard stories of people like dropping their wallet and people will like look at the IDs and like send it, like they'll pay personally, they will pay for the postage to get it where it needs to go and that sort of thing, which I just think is so sweet. Yeah.
That's a nice cultural shock to be like, everyone's extremely nice.
Yeah. Well, they're not nice. They very much don't want to do the wrong thing in public, I feel like.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt then like with expressing yourself? Do you feel like you have to dress a certain way at any time? Do you feel like some people would feel a bit that this is a more homogenous society, or have you not felt it that much?
Um, I think personally, I haven't felt like it's something I have to do, but it is something that I feel like I want to do. So my older sister studied abroad in England she like did her entire degree abroad. So I was getting a lot of advice from her, and she said, try not to bring your as many clothes as you want from home, because you'll probably end up buying clothes there once you start to like see the fashion and see what other people are wearing. And I think that that's very good advice, because like in the fall, I saw everyone was wearing these sort of like light brown trench coats. Like so many people were wearing them. And I was like, I feel like I want to get one of these because it'll make me feel like a real Dane and stuff. So I did. And like now I wear it all the time. And like it just makes me feel like I fit in a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think no one bats an eye if you dress weirdly either. Or like not weirdly, but like in brighter colors sort of thing.
You were talking about, how you bike and everything. Did you buy a bike or did you do like rent a bike? Because I think a lot of people in Scandinavia bike probably.
Yeah, there is a Dutch company that's called Swapfiets that most of my friends use. It's sort of like you pay a monthly subscription fee and you get one of their special bikes, and it has a built-in lock, and you can have like a helmet with it, and the lights are like powered by the wheels. They're really nice bikes. And I think they even have some sort of like theft protection on them too. So that's a very good thing to do if you don't want to commit to buying a bike. But I decided at the start of the year, I found this, basically the Danish version of Craigslist. It's called DBA. And I found a bike for, I think, 300 krone, which is about 75. No, that's not right. $45. So yeah, I ended up spending more on my helmet and my lock than I did on the bike itself. But the plan is that when I leave, I sort of try to sell it for close to, if not maybe a little bit more, because I think I got a deal on it. But I do have a friend who's studying abroad in Stockholm in the spring. So I think I might also try and make a trip up as soon as he gets there and be like, here's a bike that I don't want to deal with selling. And so that's sort of the other plan if I can't sell it in time.
Okay, so it works out pretty nicely.
Yeah, definitely.
And in the beginning, you were talking about your major, and you seem like a very STEM-oriented person. You were talking about even your classes. A lot of STEM majors assume that they can't go abroad. How did you plan it out so that you can? And do you recommend other STEM students to either go abroad or, focus on something else?
I personally knew from the moment I enrolled at U of R that I wanted to study abroad. I'm someone who grew up in Rochester. I have sort of been going to events on the U of R campus since like I was tiny. So I knew that like I'm a person who does like to travel and I like to see the world. So if I'm going to a university in my home state, my home city, I want to like figure out a way to get out of there for a bit. So I'm probably a bit of an exception where I started planning very, very early. I was mapping out my classes, what I should and shouldn't take as early as like the end of freshman year. So I think the university does like to make these big statements like it's so easy for STEM majors to study abroad, like XYZ, these many people have done it, so you can do it too. And I think you shouldn't assume it's going to be as easy as they make it out to be, but it's definitely possible. It's like you maybe want to start planning a semester or two in advance and make arrangements for like where you could go, what you could study a little bit ahead of time. But it's very doable, and you don't need to like be part of like Take 5 or something to do it. Like I can do it without any extra help or anything.
And how do you so far feel like it's really aiding you as a person or in your studies? Do you feel like study abroad is shaping you into a different person?
I think definitely as a person. Just the act of like cooking for myself for 3 meals a day is like the independence that's sort of given me of not having to rely on dining hall food has been really incredible. I'm meeting so many people from so many different countries. Like, probably my three best friends here, one of them's from Iceland, one of them's from Australia, and then the third one's from Germany. So it's like I'm meeting so many new people. I'm learning so much about like what it's like to live outside the US, what it's like to go to college outside of the US, not only in Denmark, but also in these countries that my friends are from. Sometimes you end up getting stranded in the middle of a city at 3 a.m. and you got to figure out how to get yourself back. And that's really scary. But I feel like I've been able to roll with it so much better than I would if I was like back home, and I might like panic and try to call my parents or like call a friend who's nearby. It's like, because those aren't options here, it's sort of forced me to learn how to look after myself and look out for myself in ways that I wouldn't have been able to do back in Rochester.
I guess for the last question, I'll ask, is the language barrier that different in that part of Europe, and how do you really deal with that?
I can speak for Denmark, saying that it's really not a barrier at all. I have been doing Duolingo every day, and sort of like keeping up my streak, but that's sort of, I would be absolutely fine if I wasn't, sort of thing. One of my friends from one of the clubs I'm in, she is Danish, and she said that under the age of 60, I think 96% of Danish people speak fluent English.
Wow.
So unless you're like super far from cities or with a much older population, you're not going to find anyone who doesn't speak English. So it's very much not a problem here, but it's going to make you want to learn Danish just because you'll feel like left out and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, no, of course you're affected by that. And I guess I know I said last question, but one more thing I did want to ask was the process of, getting into clubs and being a part of that community. Was it difficult? Because I don't know if a lot of exchange students are used to doing that in your university, but usually, exchange students are a bit hesitant to do that. So was it a difficult process, or did the university kind of push you to do that?
At my school, the clubs aren't super closely affiliated with the university. They tend to be like, you pay a little fee of like maybe like $15, $20 a semester to pay for the club doing everything it needs to. So for my board game club, that covers the board games. It covers renting out the room once a week. Just like sort of just keeping the thing up afloat, and it doesn't get as much outside funding from the university. So it's not really something the university itself pushed, but if you they had like a little club fair during our introduction week that sort of said, okay, here are all the clubs, here's when they're going to have their first meetings, you can show up, no problem. So that was super easy. I just was like, okay, it's Monday at this time, I'm just going to go and see who I meet and that sort of thing. So it was a little bit scary, I think, especially because I don't do a lot of clubs back at U of R. But I think in terms of meeting new people who share your interests, it's really one of the best things you can do. I think you can get by at U of R socially without having to join a single club. I think a lot of people either only do one club or don't do any clubs at all, and they're fine because they've got friend groups outside things. But I think that if you are going to study abroad and you are going to be a bit isolated and you sort of have to start fresh with just a couple months to actually build a new friend group, clubs are one of the best ways you can do that.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say for people who are thinking of studying abroad in Denmark?
One piece of advice I kind of wanted to give is to see if there's something you can bring, some sort of food you can bring from back home in America. Just if you're feeling really lonely or homesick, you can eat. So for me, I brought a bag of ranchers that I've slowly been working through. I brought some goldfish because I eat those a lot at home. And then I have some Trader Joe's everything but the bagel like seasoning, which I've been using like for breakfast and stuff. And none of those things like you could get here. You'd have to like ship them in. It would be crazy expensive. But sometimes like when everything's different and, all of the food's different and just everything's crazy, it's like having some stuff from home can really make you feel less like far away. So that's a piece of advice I would give. Save a little bit of space in your suitcase for your favorite seasoning or your favorite candy or something.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your study abroad, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And for everyone else, we will see you next time.